The time check is 3 p.m. Ugandan time. Barbara Mwagala, my name's your life coach in financial literacy, and I'm also an advocate for gender sensitive value chain in agriculture. Today's topic is about urban farming, courtesy of Action Aid and Global Platform Uganda. For the interest of time, let us straight away go to our presentation, and we shall be using the PowerPoint presentation. Before I forget, I want to urge everybody who would be interested in having this presentation, you can email me at mwagalebarbara@yahoo.com, and I would also advise you, if you are to download it, for instance, if you are using a smartphone, you need to download an app of WPS, because it will help you to go through the slides, but then also to help you to see the additional notes that I've attached on each slide. Or, okay, fine, you can open it using any other app, but the WPS would be more appropriate. Okay, urban farming. What is urban farming? Urban farming, in simple terms, it is just an act of carrying out agricultural activities within urban centers where ownership of land is quite a challenge. And I want to also tell that urban farming is quite wide. It ranges from growing of fruits, vegetables, grazing of animals, rearing of birds, name it. But you find that most people, especially in the urban centers, are quite facing a difficulty because of limitation of space and sometimes land and also other resources. But I want to tell you, it is a challenge that can be managed within the available resources that one can improvise. Okay, what are the requirements that one needs to have in order for one to carry out urban farming? One, you need to have capital to buy the seedlings and the pesticides. And by the way, urban farming is a kind of a business that is not capital intensive. You just need some little money and you're good to go. Then you also need to have fertile black soils. This type of soils are found in most places, are found in areas that are swampy. But even if you're not able to access the fertile black soil, you can use any other type of soil. And you also need to add in the manures and the fertilizers. Then also, don't forget that these manures can be improvised. If you can afford to get the fertilizers, well and good, those ones you get them from the farmers' shops. But also you can improvise manures, and you don't need to have money to get these manures. All you need to get a partnership with the people who are carrying out poultry farming or grazing animals within your area of residency. And then also you need to have improvised sacks or plastic containers. This could be broken basins, they could be jerry cans, they could be bottles, name it. And then also you need to have a few bricks and wood at times. And then 5, you need to have a watering can or a small spray bottle. But I usually advise people to have a small spray bottle, reason being that it is multi-purpose. You can use it both for watering the crops during the dry season, but you can also use it for spraying the pesticides if your crops are being affected by the insects or the pests. Okay, our slide 4. What are the common plants to grow in urban centers? Remember, in urban centers, most people are challenged by the space and the land, and also you realize that most people in the urban centers are tenants, so you are always on the move. You can stay in a place like for 3 months, and then you're looking for a more comfortable place in another area. So I wouldn't advise one to venture into crops that take quite long to grow, for example banana plantations or fruits, because most fruits take some time. But I'd advise one to venture into vegetables. Actually today we are mainly going to concentrate on the vegetables, because the vegetables quite have a shorter period of growth. It usually ranges between 3 weeks and to 1 month. Your crop is already ready for you to eat, or even to sell. Remember, you're not only venturing into urban farming just for home consumption, you can even do it for sale to your neighbors and probably even your colleagues at work. Actually, I'll be sharing with you next time on how to market this harvest and how you can be in position to make it your side business or your side hustle. Okay, what are the things that that are going to be used when you are to carry out urban farming? One, I told you need to have sacks. These sacks, as you'll be seeing them in the pictures, these are kind of sacks that are usually used for storing cereals like maize, beans, and other things. Or you can also have tires. Plastics, I've already given examples of the plastics. Many of us, when our Benson's buckets, jerrycans break, we just throw them away. It is something that you can put to use at the end of the day. And then you also, sometimes you may need to have a demarcated area. This involves, for instance, if you have some space in your compound or at the back of your house, you may create your gardens by demarcating them using bricks or wood, as I'll be explaining to you in the different slides. And then also you need, I've already told you, need black soils with manure or fertilizers, or you can use any other type of soil. It shouldn't be a very big issue for you as long as you can add on the manure and fertilizers. And then also you need the seedlings, as I'll be showing you the different types of seedlings that are available. And then you can also have a hoe, or even if you don't have it, you can find a way of getting the soil, and then a watering can and a spray bottle. Okay, let us straight away go to the different examples of the gardens that you can improvise within your means. Example one is a kind of a garden that you can improvise at the back of your house, or especially like if if the land is yours and you're then constructing the house, it is a kind of an idea that you can put into practice. You construct your house in such a way that you leave some space, you put some kind of a trench, and then you'll have to fill that trench with the soil, like the way you're seeing in the picture. And also I told you, after filling in the soil, of course, don't forget putting the manure. Then the next step would be for you to now plant the crops. And remember, most of the vegetables have seeds, so you'll need to just sprinkle these seeds or spray them and then cover some soil on top. But also remember, there are also some kind of vegetables that may need you to make a nursery bed. For example, the tomatoes and eggplants. Our next one of our presentations next time will be on how to make the nursery beds within the urban centers for those kind of crops that you need to have a nursery bed before you go ahead to plant. Okay, so our next slide is a example 2 of the garden. This is what I was telling you, the demarcated areas. And just as you can see in the picture, you need to have some space in your compound and then some bricks to make these like the way you're seeing. But even if you don't have the bricks and you have wood, you can still do the garden. But remember, if you're to use wood, don't forget to use these black polythene bags, because the reason why you have to cover them with the black polythene bags is that the wood is usually affected by the termites. And remember, the termites are also one of the pests that affect our crops, as I'll be showing you in the slides when we come to the insects and the pests. Okay, and then after doing this, of course, you fill in the soil like I've already told you, and then you repeat the same process like I've explained to you in the first slide. Okay, example 3 of our gardens is the use of the sacks. Remember, these sacks are in different types, like the way you can see, but the most commonly used are the ones that we use for packing the cereals, like I've told you, the maize, beans, granules, etc. And these sacks, you can arrange them depending on how you wish. Some people prefer having them in the vertical way, others prefer having them in the horizontal way. but I would advise for one to go in for the horizontal. You spread them in a horizontal way. Reason being that when you spread them in a horizontal one, you maximize the little space you have, as you can see, and then too you are able to grow multiple crops from only one sack. Then after you deciding on how you want to lay your sacks down, the next thing is to fill them with the soil and then the manure. And then before you go ahead now to do the planting, you need to use a sharp object. It could be a knife or any other sharp object, and then create these holes like the way you're seeing. So after creating these holes, but then you create the holes after putting in the soil, filling in the soil is when you creating the holes. So after doing that is when you can go ahead and plant in the seedlings. Or if it is a kind of a vegetable whereby you need to have a nursery bed, then you bring the young plants and plant them in different holes, as you can see. Then our next slide is an example of the garden. This is on the use of the different plastics. I only got a few examples, but you can use jerry cans, you can use buckets, you can use different plastics. But you also don't forget, as you're using the plastics, you need to create holes at the bottom. Otherwise, if you don't do that, if you are to sprinkle water during the dry season, that means the water will just become stagnant. So it is advisable to create also holes at the bottom. And then also, as you're using these plastics, remember it is a kind of a cheap means, in that you may not need even to have space. Even at your veranda, you can put it at your veranda. Or alternatively, if the veranda is quite small, you can tie some strings in the space and then improvise some holes on the different plastics. Then tie those strings and then make your crop hang in space. It is also one of the ways. Okay, it takes us to our next slide. Our next slide is basically on the seedlings. Remember, most of these vegetables we grow have got seedlings. We have different types. For example, the buga, that is the red dodo. In Uganda they call it buga. Then we have the green dodo, we have nakati, we have spinach, we have skuma, name it. Most of these seedlings are sold in form of sackets, like the way you can see. And for those who live within Kampala, you can get these seedlings from Container Village, the farmers shops that is next to Owino Market. And the price for these seedlings range between 2,500 to 3,000, so it is quite affordable. Okay, yeah, so our next slide is showing us how our gardens will actually look like after doing the planting. This first picture, it is a garden, or the demarcated area garden. You can see how beautifully it is. And then also this one involves the use of the plastics, and it is quite beautiful. Don't you see? One, you've minimized the space and you are able to have the vegetable in your home. Don't you think that is so fantastic? Okay, so let us move to our next type of garden. It is still the use of the plastics and then the sacks. You can see, so this is the cabbage growing up, and you can see how beautiful it is. And then also you can see, actually you can, like this one, you can even think it is a flower. It actually even makes the compound very beautiful. So instead of you filling your compound with the flowers, yes, the flowers are quite good for beauty, but I think growing of vegetables would be more ideal, because one, it's not only bringing the beauty, but you are also in position to get money, and also for home consumption as a family. Okay, then another example of the garden, the ones of the plastics, like the bottles, like the way you can see it. Actually, also when you arrange them very well, they still make your compound look very beautiful. Okay, As you're venturing into urban farming, especially growing of vegetables, don't also forget that there are common pests that affect these vegetables. And I've been in position to list for you a few common ones. That is the aphids, the caterpillars, cutworms, grasshoppers, weevils, mites, whiteflowers, and thrips. Of course, there are other types, but these are the most common ones. And I'm going to show you each of these in their pictures if you do not know how they look like, so that next time when you see such around your vegetable, you are in position to know which kind of pest or insect has affected your crop. Okay, this is the picture of the aphids. When you look at it, it somehow looks more of a bee. So if you see this kind of insect around your crop, just the next thing you need to do is to find a way of getting the pests and then add the pesticides and then destroy it before it destroys your crop. Then the next example is the white fly. This is not so much common here in Uganda, but it is also good to know about it, so that next time when you see this kind of insect on your vegetable, just know it is an insect and it calls for you to spray it. Okay, then the next picture are the cutworms. These ones usually hide in the ground, but as they hide in the ground, they are destroying the roots of the vegetable. So you will find that the leaves or the top of the vegetable is not healthy, or it grows in a kind of form whereby it folds. So when you get this kind of worms within the soil where you've planted your vegetable, it is an alert for you to look for a pesticide and then deal with it. And then we have the grasshopper. I think this one is very common, most of us have seen it. And the locusts, they also affect our vegetables in different ways depending on the type of vegetable. And then you also need to find the appropriate pesticide to use for destroying this. Then lastly, we have this. It usually creates a kind of a sliver cover on the leaf of the vegetable, and this is very common. I think most of you have seen it. So when you see this kind of okay, sometimes it's grayish, or I can say sliver cover. When you see it on your leaf, just know your vegetables are being affected, and you need to act as soon as possible to get the pesticides and deal with it. Okay, now I know that most of us are used to using only fertilizers that are being manufactured, but I want to tell you that most of those fertilizers that they manufacture, they have got toxins, and those toxins, as you spray them on the crop, remember they leave the chemical residue on the crop, and then at the end of the day, as you're eating them, with the time it affects the human life. So there are some homemade pesticides that I do recommend for one to use. One, they're even affordable, because the items you need to make most of these pesticides are the same things you use in your home for consumption, and it is quite cheap. Like I've told you, you need to have, you can use the oil spray, the pepper spray, the neem oil spray, the garlic spray, or the soap spray. These are the few examples that I would recommend for you. Okay, starting with the oil spray. How do you make an oil spray? An oil spray, you just need 1 cup of vegetable oil, which I believe it is affordable, and most of us have it in our homes. And then you also have to have 1 tablespoon of the mild liquid soap. Why I say you need to use the mild liquid soap is because we have different types of soap, and it is advisable for you to check on the kind of liquid soap you're going to use. It must have a lower pH, because some soaps have high pH, so this one may at the end of the day affect your vegetable. So you need to look at one that has got at least a pH that is lower than 7.0. And then you need to mix the two, shake it thoroughly well, and then for it to apply, you just get 2 spoonfuls of the oil mixture that you've already made with 1/4 of water. Then shake it well and then spray on crops. Okay, then we are looking at the pepper spray. The pepper spray, how to mix it? You simply need to have 1 tablespoon of chili powder and then 1/4 of water, and then after mixing it, you have to add in several drops of the liquid soap. Or if you don't have the chili powder and you have the fresh pepper, you'll just need to get a 1/2 cup of the fresh pepper and 1 cup of water. Blend the two. Then after blending, you add in another 1/4 of water and then boil and let it cool. Then strain and add several drops of the liquid soap and spray. But also remember, as you're using the pepper spray, you need to be very careful. You need to use the gloves, and then also you need also to protect your eyes and the nose. Okay, then our next sample is the garlic spray. The garlic spray, you need to have the 2 bulbs, not just cloves, and then you need to add in a little water and then blend. So after blending, let that mixture stay over a night. Then in the following day, you can strain in a quarter jar, add in 1/2 cup of vegetable, but this is option. If you don't have the vegetable, you can leave it out. And then 1 teaspoon of the liquid soap and enough water to fill the jar. Shake it well and spray on your plants. Okay, and then our next slide is on the neem oil spray. This is the kind of oil that is extracted from the neem tree, and how to mix it. You only need 2 spoonfuls of the neem oil and 1 teaspoonful of the liquid soap and a quart of water. Mix all this, shake it well, and then you spray it on your gardens. Then finally, you can also make a soap spray. A soap spray, this is just 1.5 teaspoonful of the liquid soap, 1 quart of water, mix the two and then spray. This kind of sprays are quite healthy for the human consumption. And then also remember, as you're making this kind of sprays, like I already told you, you may need to have a spray bottle, just like as you're going to see in the different pictures. So these are the pictures of the spray bottles we have. I know there are many types of spray bottles out there, and the range is between, I think, 2,000 to 30,000 depending on what you're buying. But personally, I do recommend this kind of a spray bottle. It is usually supplied, I think, by Aldi. Why I would recommend this kind of a spray bottle is that 1, it has got measurements, and then 2, when you look at its nozzle is quite different, so it makes your spraying easy as compared to other types of spray bottles. Okay, this brings us to the end of the slide on vegetables, but I also wanted to share with you a few slides on rearing of birds, because I've told you urban farming is not only about vegetables, it is quite wide. It covers a lot of things. I haven't so much ventured into rearing of birds, but I have friends who have done so, and that's why I'm sharing these slides so that you can pick a few ideas. For example, when you look at this very first one, it is a kind of whereby you need to have some little space, and then you create a kind of a cage. So this cage, you'll be in position at least to control your birds, and you're not in position to inconvenience your neighbors or others. And then also too, your birds will be in position to eat healthy. You can see they're in position to eat some insects, some worms, and then also some green grass, which is also good for their growth and healthy. Then example 2 is this. It is also a kind of method of caging the birds. And then for those who are interested, for example, in rearing birds that lay eggs, this is also ideal for you. It is a kind of cheaper means of doing it within your small space in your compound or within your house, whereby you just get a tire, fill in the soil, and then you create this kind of thing. And actually it makes even the place look very beautiful, like the way you can see it. Then finally, this is on the rearing of ducks. Yeah, you can, but this one also creates needs for some little quite space in the compound, you can create a trench like the way you can see it, but it does not have to be so deep. Then fill in with water, and then the birds can enjoy their day. Okay, yeah, it brings us to the end of our presentation. I want to say thank you very much for watching and participating. Let us catch up next time. For comments, don't forget to email mwagarebarbara@yahoo.com. All the best.